Meet Luis Swisher. Born from Guatemala, Luis quickly fell in love with the beautiful game. After going pro in their first division, he made his international debut for the national team and is now coaching with St. Louis SC in the MLS Next program. But how did Luis find success? And so in this episode, we uncover the brutality of the football landscape, the evolution of modern day tactics, and learn what it actually takes to make it to the highest level. What was life like growing up for you?
So I was born and raised in Guatemala. I grew up playing at my school in local leagues, just playing with my buddies. Soccer was the thing. Went into academy system all the way to 18 when I did my pro debut. But yeah, that was basically it.
Who inspired you personally, like someone you know, and then also like professionally in the game?
My uncle played professionally in Guatemala. Saw him as a role model. But I remember one time when he was in Municipal, which is one of the top clubs over there, he even asked me, "You want to be a mascot?" And I was like, that was the one thing that I didn't do. But when I was growing up, I loved Romario. I became a Barca fan at that moment because of him, and then the real Ronaldo. I used to play as a forward. Then I became a right back, and I started liking more Cafu, but my thing always was soccer.
If you were to summarize, what was football like in the Guatemala First Division?
For me, it was everything. I used to sacrifice all the things because I wanted to be involved in the sport. When I went to college, I wanted to still be in four walls that were talking about soccer. So if I want to be in the office, it has to be about that.
How would you compare international football to club football? You played for the Guatemala national team, some Olympic qualifying, World Cup qualifying games. How would you compare those games to the club football in the First Division?
It's different because in a national team context, you have a whole country. That dynamic of playing against them, but then suddenly is you have to be in the same team and adapt as quick as possible. Okay, now we're in the same boat representing something bigger than just a club, because in the national team, you only have 1 week or 3 days or 2 weeks. And then in the other one, you have the time to have a weekly basis in terms of preparation. Those are the things that might be slightly different.
You did spend that one season in Poland. What were the major challenges that you faced?
I was going to Poland. Most of people don't speak English. I went in 2005 and 6. The only ones who could speak a little bit were the young ones. The biggest challenge was the language and adapting to the culture. Also things like food, the weather. I still remember those hard days where you have to train in super cold weather and your toes and your fingers, something that you're not used to it. I adapted well. I learned a little bit of Polish. Obviously, you might miss the family and the social aspects because you're by yourself. We try to stay together and create that bond. I recommend people travel because that gives you a different perspective of other side of the world. They get to know a little bit of my culture, a little bit of Guatemala, because when I used to come into the US in the 90s, I thought I was living in a tree, and I was like, no, hold a second. We don't live in trees. We don't live in those things. We're a small country, but we have normal things like you guys have here.
Knowing what you know now, if you were to go back and tell yourself one piece of advice along that transition path, what would you say?
I would say adapting. So try to have a little bit of resilience to those challenges, but look at from the bright side that you learn about all the things. Now I tell my kid, I don't like this, like you haven't tried it. How do you know that you don't like it? Even here in the US, when I started coaching, I was worried about if I made a mistake. I mean, we're humans. As long as I correct it and I get better within that, be curious, be adaptable, be open to new things.
Looking back on your career, if you were to sum up what a day in the life looks like as a player.
As a player, we train 9, 10, waking up around 7, getting a good breakfast. When I used to go to training, I love the locker rooms. I was always on time because I think the moments that I spend with my teammates doing the jokes inside the locker room, those are the things when people ask me, what do you miss about the sport? It is that. It is the locker room. Then hit the field, do a small rondo, and then was training, then having lunch, hanging out with family, eat, go to bed, and do the same cycle again.
If you can pick out one game, something that surprised you that you'll always remember.
The day 2002 World Cup qualifying, Casey Keller and Enter Rasso, they were part of the US team. We brought them into the hottest place that you can imagine. Carlos Ruiz scored a goal in the last minute. We didn't win the game, we tied the game. And then on club level, I would say winning a championship with a club that is called Xelaju. They were 20 years of not winning it. We lost the first leg, so we had to go away and no one was expecting us to win. That was a pretty good moment. It was 2 years after I got back from Poland.
What is the reality of the FIFpro? What did you do? What is it all about?
In Guatemala, there were some economical problems that the teams were not financially sustainable, I would say. So we decided to create a union. We got the top players at that moment and we said, hey, let's do something for the future. In terms of health, if they don't get paid, when they are out of contracts, how can we help them? Let's say if the clubs don't pay them, then we put them lawyers so they can help them with their payments. I was thinking more in the future. So if I have a child that wants to play the sport and go to the pro level, instead of doing that, go to college, go do something different. I'd rather say, no, you can play pro because it's sustainable.
Can you describe your experience as like an MLS youth coach in the beginning with DC United, New York Red Bulls?
When I decided decide to hang out the boots. DC United opened an internship to assist the director. I was not looking for a job. I was just looking for the experience of working in the MLS Pro environment. And in fact, I still remember the call. It's like, really? You want to retire and do this, an internship? Well, I was already 35 taking an internship. So he was surprised about that. And I said, I'm not looking for the money. I'm looking for just the opportunity to see things. And I have some family in DC. So I stayed there for 3 months, working in the summer camps, doing many things during that time. At the end, when I was in conversations with them, they said, New York Red Bulls, if you're looking for a job, they have the training programs. Went to New Jersey, did the interview, and they hired me. I worked with them 3 years. I recommend the young coaches, don't skip phases, don't skip steps, enjoy the process, because now I'm a head coach in San Luis City, and that's been my kind of journey on the coaching career.
Yeah. What was it like to be a scout in the USL? What are some things you look for in a player when you're trying to scout them?
I define talent as you have different buckets of different abilities, and it's just a head start in different abilities. It is tricky on the younger ages because you can only see what people execute. It's hard to look for decision making. So if a player does a bad pass, I cannot say, oh, he's not good enough because he didn't execute the ball, because what you seeing is only the bad pass, the execution. But it might be that there's other things behind, like it could be a good decision, but you don't know that. Can I see what the player does more off the ball? The body language, the behavior, the responses, those things are more personality. When we're talking with players, we always tell them behaviors matter, because that's what people see, the final behavior. So at the end, you try to look deeper what you can see.
And then I know you spent some time with FC Boulder. Was it difficult to find success with the team?
It's different because the model is still of pay to play. You have to be more patient. It's about improving those abilities. In the pro level, it's more about the performance, the winning and everything else. But you might not have an assistant, but you have yourself. It helps you become better because you don't have all those things. I always tell coaches, you see more your development as a head coach with players that they're lower, because you can see more what they have improved. When they are good, it's tricky because everyone thinks, oh, they're fantastic, I don't have to do anything. Maybe yes, and that's harder to see, but you still have to make them better. I would say that's the difference between one and the other one.
Now with St. Louis, what are some things you picked up with the MLS Next program?
Before, when we started, we only had 2 teams, 60s and 70s. There was no second team and no first team. So we have to train in a local park that we rent because we didn't have a stadium, we didn't have anything. And now we have everything. Our players think they have too much. There's not their fault, but they have a lot. But seeing that transition from zero to this has been amazing. There's been many challenges as well, but I think that's growth. That's how you become better.
I know you spent the majority of your career as a defender. What are skills that you look for in defenders?
When I was a player, I knew that I had my limitations. So I was always aware, wow, I was not good. So I tried to cover that with better thinking. I'm only 5'8" and I have to mark wingers that were 6 foot. How do I deal with that? But I'm one of the players at that. Are they able to solve problems? When I was a left back and the sideline of the coaches on the other side, we used to joke and say, what is coach saying? I don't hear anything. And imagine with 20,000, 40,000 people. He will have his time at halftime and maybe let me know what's going on, but it's the reality. Imagine a small this transferred it to the youth level. We have all these parents yelling at their kids and doing the things, and the kids are getting overwhelmed. It's like, I just want to play, right? I mean, it's good decision making of the players.
You started playing football in the early 90s. How would you compare the modern game today versus when you first started?
Because of all the different resources that we have now, you have better coaches, so that naturally makes you better. Before, they used to tell me what was good in my nutrition. Now you have a nutritionist in your back. You might not have the access to eat well, but at least you have the access to the information. Then you have the strength condition. That will slightly make you faster. The game has evolved. There's more thinking. You still have the same spaces that you need to exploit. So what it changes is just the dynamics of how people is getting prepared and the resources, but it's going to keep evolving. Now with the VAR, it's changing the game in so many ways. Go back to a game in 1990, watch it, and you will start saying the question, oh, if they will have VAR, it will be different.
What's your last message, piece of advice for someone that does want to either get into coaching or pursue their dreams?
When coaches are looking for players, we're looking a lot on who can adapt, who can be resilient and be able to think as quick as possible to what comes next. You can still make mistakes and become better within that feedback. The other thing as well, as a pro, you're going to get so many closed doors, and that might be that you don't fit that environment. It's just have dreams, but also be realistic. I wanted to play in Barcelona, but that was not going to happen if I don't find the ways to get to Barcelona. And then as a head coach, there's a syndrome where a former player, you think you know it all because you experienced during all those years, but it's a totally different world, because at the end is you're not doing it anymore. It's somebody else is doing it. I mean, everyone wants to be Pep, everyone wants to be clubs. No, I mean, I think I want to be Luis. I want to have my own thing. For the young coaches, be patient, have mentors, have people to help you out, be curious. When I started coaching, it looks easier, but it's been a lot of work. And like I said, I don't know if I'm going to reach it, but I'm going to try to guide an intent.
A huge thanks to Luis, as I wish you the best in your coaching career. And please drop a like on the video, because if it wasn't for him, this video wouldn't be possible. But if you want to see more, check this interview out.